everyone, welcome to Truth Told Go Deeper. It's great to see you today. Palm Sunday is what I'm going to talk about today as we are rapidly approaching the Easter time of year. I remember Palm Sunday as a child being particularly joyful and happy and celebratory, whereas when we get to Good Friday it gets sad, and then Easter Sunday it gets happy again. But Palm Sunday is a particular favourite day of mine, and there's a lot we can learn from the story of Palm Sunday, which is documented in all four of the Gospels. Palm Sunday celebrates Jesus' arrival into Jerusalem for the Jewish feast of Passover, and we read in the Bible that many crowds lined the streets and were waving palm branches to welcome him. The Old Testament contains hundreds of prophecies about the coming of Jesus as Messiah, and it was through the fulfillment of these prophecies that people would be able to recognize when Jesus had come. 600 years before the birth of Christ, in Zechariah 9:9 we read this prophecy: "Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion, shout aloud, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your King is coming to you, righteous and having salvation, humble and mounted on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey." And we read this story being fulfilled to every detail in Matthew chapter 21, John 12, Mark 11 and Luke 19. Jesus is a different type of king, isn't he? He makes no display of his great power. He makes a display of humility, and he makes a display of lowliness. The donkey is not a royal and regal animal. It's not very awe-inspiring. It's a work animal. It doesn't cost very much. It's not very expensive. It's not something that you would associate with the wealth and riches of a king. It is an animal for the ordinary people. And that's exactly what Jesus wanted to convey. He comes as King of Kings and Lord of Lords, but he comes to the ordinary people. A conquering king would generally enter a city post-war on a big stallion or something even more impressive. History tells us that Julius Caesar returned to Rome one time riding a golden chariot being pulled by 40 elephants as part of a 3-day parade. But our king is a completely different type of king. He is King Jesus. Jerusalem's population swelled at that time from 40,000 to 200,000, and Passover was one of the busiest times of the year. Historians tell us that there were 2 processions into Jerusalem on what we now call Palm Sunday, processions that couldn't have been possibly more different in the message they convey. With crowds of devout Jews flowing into Jerusalem to commemorate Passover, the Roman governors would put on a display of force to try and deter the Jews from getting too excited about the possible liberation from Rome. So Pilate would enter into the city, asserting his might and power, the might of the empire, which will crush everyone who opposes it. In contrast, Jesus enters the city on a young donkey, embodying peace and tranquility that God brings to all his people. Pilate enters from the west, Jesus enters from the north. Pilate stays aloof from all of the people. Jesus comes close to all of the people. Pilate's procession is all about a show of his imperial power and military force. Jesus' procession is about humility, showing himself as Christ, humble on a donkey, loving and serving. Pilate's display of power is all about horses and cavalry and foot soldiers and leather armour, helmets and weapons and banners and golden eagles mounted on poles and sun glinting on all sorts of metal and gold. Jesus, on the contrary, it's all about the waving of palm branches, the praises of ordinary people. According to the Gospels, Matthew and Mark, it says about leafy branches. Luke doesn't mention branches at all, and the Gospel of John says palm branches. And the waving of palm branches was the way that a conquering military leader was welcome home from battle. So John's Gospel with the palm branches displays to us that they recognize Jesus is a conquering hero for those who know him as Lord. Pilate's entry was all about the power of man. Jesus' entry was all about the love of God. Pilate enters on a horse, a symbol of war. Jesus enters on a donkey, the symbol of peace. Pilate came to be served. Jesus comes to serve. So we have two arrivals, two entrances, two processions, but we have one King Jesus who came for you and me. He was baby Jesus the King, as we read in the account of his birth, documented and prophesied in Isaiah chapter 9 verse 6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he would be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Pilate said to him on one occasion, "So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say correctly that I am a king. For this I have been born, and for this I have come into the world." King Jesus. John 18 verse 37. And we read in the story of the birth of Christ these words, very familiar words. Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who's been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and we have come to worship him." At his birth, he was hailed as king. On Palm Sunday, he was hailed as servant king. And one day, Jesus will be our coming king. This is another prophecy. Zechariah chapter 9 and verse 10, the king will return. Revelation 7:9, after this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, and people and language, standing before the throne and in front of the Lamb. And they were wearing white robes and were holding palm branches in their hands. And they cried in a loud voice, saying, "Salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb." Revelation 19:11 says, "On his robe and on his thigh he has the name that is written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords." During ancient times, victorious Roman generals entered their conquered cities in chariots drawn by white horses. During ancient times, victorious Roman generals entered their conquered cities in chariots drawn by white horses. Listen to this verse in Revelation 19:11. "And I saw heaven opened, and behold a white horse, and he who sat on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and wages war. His eyes are a flame of fire, and on his head there are many diadems. He has a name written on him which no one knows except himself. On his robe and on his thigh he has a name written that says, King of Kings and Lord of Lords." Zephaniah 9:9 says, "Behold, your King is coming to you, righteous and having salvation, humble and mounted on a donkey." This Palm Sunday, let's celebrate the arrival of King Jesus into our world, into our lives. His presence we can celebrate. His presence changes everything. God bless you. Bye-bye.